Hi. Today I'd like to continue our discussion of section 4.3. In our previous discussion, we talked about writing linear equations in point-slope form. So now we have, let's review that one first. So y minus y1 equals m, the slope, times x minus x1. Okay, this is the slope right here, and this, you may recall, x1, y1 is a point on the line. So for example, I could write y minus 3 equals 1/2 times x plus 2. 1/2 is the slope, and a point on the line then would be -2, 3. The reason it's -2 is because the format calls for a negative here, but we have a positive. So this must be minus -2, and therefore that's how we got the plus. So this x value is a -2, and this y value is a 3. All right, let's back up for a minute now. We have two forms of linear equation. We have y equals mx plus b, and that is slope-intercept form. And the reason, of course, it's called slope-intercept is because that's the slope and that's the y-intercept. So that's form number one that we've looked at. Number two, y minus y1 equals m the slope times x minus x1. And this is called point-slope form. Point-slope form because this is the slope here, and this x1, y1 is a point on the line. All right, so we've looked at those two forms. Now let's look at the third form, which is standard form ax plus by equals c. To give you an example, 3x minus 4y equals 10 would be in standard form. You can go back and forth among these different forms, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit more about standard form. Couple of things to notice here for standard form. The first is that you have the x's, then the y's, then the equal sign, and then the constant. Okay, and it has to be written like that. The second thing you need to know, that means the x's have to come first, and then the y's, and then the constant on the other side. The other thing to notice here is that you cannot have fractions and decimals in any one of the three numerical values. So let me take this away for a moment, and we'll look at a standard. Let's do this. Y equals -3/4 x plus 1/2. All right. That's clearly a linear equation in slope-intercept form. Now, let's say we want to change it into standard form. So we're going to add 3/4 x to both sides. And I get 3/4 x plus y equals 1/2. Kind of looks like standard form, but not yet, because you cannot have fractions and decimals in standard form. So I'm going to go through and multiply the entire equation by 4 so I can get rid of both the 2 and the 4 and not have any more fractions. So this becomes 3x plus 4y equals 2 goes into 4 twice, and 2 times 1 is 2, or looking at it differently, 1/2 of 4 is 2. This is proper standard form. All right. Let's look at another situation. Let's take one that maybe we've already written in point-slope form. Y minus 6 equals 2/3 x plus 3. All right. I want to put that into standard form, but I'm going to first have to go through slope-intercept form, and I'll show you how that works. The first thing, by the way, please make sure, if you are asked to write something in point-slope form, make sure it looks like this. You do not distribute the 2/3 to these two, and you do not simplify it, and you do not turn it into any other form. It should be written just like that if it's going to be in point-slope form. All right, now, in order to change it into slope-intercept form, I am going to multiply this out. So I get y minus 6 equals 2/3 times 2/3 x plus 2/3 of 3 is 2. Okay, I add 6 to both sides, and then I have y equals 2/3 x plus 8. Now, I've taken point slope form and put it into slope intercept form. I now want to put it in standard form. So I'm going to subtract the 2/3 x from both sides, minus 2/3 x, minus 2/3 x. And over here, we now have negative 2/3 x plus y is equal to 8. All right? Not there yet, because remember, we have to change this by getting rid of the fraction. So I'm going to multiply everything by 3. This becomes negative 2x plus 3y equals 3 times 8, which is 24, and that is standard form. All right? So 3 different forms we've looked at: point slope, slope intercept, and standard. You can change this, of course, back into slope intercept form rather easily. Let's see what would happen. If I add the 2x to both sides, so plus 2x plus 2x, I get 3y equals 2x plus 24. And now I have to divide everything by 3 because I have to have y by itself. And I get y equals 2/3 x plus 8, and we're back to this form. It is more difficult to take this form and put it into point slope form, so we're not going to worry about that at the moment. And I believe that concludes our discussion of the 3 different forms for now. One more thing I wanted to mention. It is relatively easy to graph a linear equation from either this form, let's say we had y minus 3 equals 1/2 x plus 2, because you have a slope and you have a point on the line, in this case negative 2, 3. It's relatively easy to graph it in this form, y equals 1/2 x plus 5, let's say, because you have the y-intercept and you have the slope. It is not so easy to graph it in this form, standard form, unless you're making a table of values, which you can certainly do, maybe find the x and y intercepts, or unless you change it into this form, and then it's easy to graph. So ordinarily when we graph, we're going to be changing standard form into slope intercept form in order to graph. All right? Thank you very much.